every day to make your home's needs a priority because Golden Group invests in you and your communities. With unbeatable craftsmanship, customer satisfaction, reasonable pricing, Golden Group Roofing stands above the rest. Having been awarded GAF Master Lead Contractor, Certainty Select Shingle Master, and GAF Energy Certified Solar, Golden Group Roofing is 100% worthy of your investment. Experience the Golden Group difference, where hands protect what matters most. Visit us at goldengrouproofing.com or call us at 508-873-1884. 508-873-1884.
Hi, this is Brian Carpenter from One Worcester Homes. We're excited to offer the strongest buyer and seller representation throughout Worcester County and all the surrounding areas. Our agents are trained better and will look out for your best interests throughout the entire transaction. To reach out to One Worcester Homes, simply find us on Facebook, type in One Worcester Homes. We look forward to the opportunity to help you and your family in your home buying or selling transaction. And don't forget to join us the fourth Saturday of every month at 7:30 on Handling Change.
The following is a paid program. The opinions are those of the host and guests and not necessarily those of the station or its management.
You are about to undertake a 2-hour experience of eye-opening, mind-expanding, revealing common sense discussion for the common sense citizen. Strap yourself in, put your trays in the upright position, remove dentures and loose jewelry, get comfortable, take a deep breath, and come along for the ride. It is time for the Joe Mangiacotti Show on Powerhouse Station WCRN 830, and our affiliates and streaming on the TuneIn app. It's Joe time, baby.
Good morning. Welcome to the Saturday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN, our affiliate station ACE, AM 730 out in the Springfield area. Of course, we are live streaming on the TuneIn app. Just punch in WCRN and you can take us anywhere. All right, let's take care of some housekeeping. To join the conversation, very simple, 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. That reaches right into the studio for two-way talk and conversation. We also have our text line up and running, 617-297-8388. 617-297-8388 goes to a screen here that I get to see your messages in real time. But if you can't text, don't worry about it. If you can email, just email Text Joe on the radio. I like things that are named what they are. Text Joe on the radio. All one word at gmail.com. It appears on the same screen, and that's how some of you like to communicate. But if you want to get a hold of the show off air when we're not on the air, we have an email for that. It's simple, JoeMShow at gmail.com. JoeMShow at gmail.com. You can also give a call to the office. We actually do have an office number for the show. So that's 508-603-9778. All right, behind the board today we have Jazz in, of course, and Russ is joining us for the first time on the Joe Mangiacotti Show. Good morning, Russ. Up, microphone.
All right, there we go. See, it's been a while.
It's been a while, I know, but you're an old pro here at the boards and producing here at WCRN. You've produced several different shows over the years. So
yes, I have. I've had the opportunity to do this kind of position on other shows, and I've also run the board during UMass sports with the football and basketball, and I really miss those, this year because of COVID. I mean,
everything. I mean, all right. So this is, what a weekend to come back, Russ. Right, Super Bowl Sunday, folks. Tom Brady is looking. This is his, I think, 10th Super Bowl, and he's trying to go for his 7th ring. There's got to be someone, one of our listeners is going to know all those stats if you want to share them. 508-871-7000. If that's going to be a record or not. Jazz, do you have any idea? Is that a record? 7 if he gets us? I don't know. But I'm sure somebody knows what it is. So it's a big party weekend. But again, in the time of COVID, things are very different. Reminding you also that this being the first Saturday of February, wow, right? Moving along here already. But first, it's Black History Month. So throughout the month, we'll be taking a look at Black history here in the United States and some of the notable people in our history. They've done it tomorrow on the case files from the LPDAM. Sean Burke shares a little bit of the history of the first, or at least the first recognized black private detective in the history of the country. We'll hear about him tomorrow. And I was very interested and fascinated to learn about him. But because it is the first Saturday of the month, that means at 7 o'clock we become politically speaking, and we're joined by State Senator Michael Moore. So Michael Moore will be in at 7 o'clock in studio, being able to take your calls, talk to you, and he'll tell us about what he's working on legislatively, as well as, and I think we're going to ask him a lot about COVID-19 vaccination rollout, the locations, things of that nature. Worcester has some sites in Worcester area. So now it's the question, right, of getting the vaccination into our arms. And what's interesting about that, let's make the jump here, because Joe Biden, what is he, 15, 16 days into the administration, and I think he's realizing things are a little bit different from this seat, from the seat he's in now, namely the Oval Office seat. And it's like the comedian and the heckler. It's a lot easier, folks, to be the heckler, isn't it, right? From the sidelines, yelling criticisms and making mockery and so forth, than it is to actually be the comedian in center stage, needing to have the talent. But Joe Biden was handed this incredibly accelerated vaccination process with multiple vaccinations, handed to him in a silver platter, a rollout in place. And now this is another situation, folks, where we have federal government versus the 50 local governments, state governments, i.e. state governments, and who's responsible for what. And what we've seen is very different results from very different governors. And the governors who way back in the beginning of 2020 looked down the road and started to figure out at some point, especially that Donald Trump's doing this incredibly accelerated process of thinking outside the box, and that's all it was, is Donald Trump looked at this and approached it in a way that nobody else has ever done it before. And when they told him, you can't do that, he said, why can't I do that? He said, because that's not the way we do it. Yeah, that didn't even register with him. So he had multiple companies working on it and also doing the phases simultaneously. And he told them straight out, I don't care. Go ahead and make 1 million of those vials while you're testing it. Well, but Mr. President, if they're no good and they don't work, what about those? We're out of all that money. No, you're not. Throw them away and we'll pay them. We'll pay for it. That's how important this was. He saw what needed to be done. At the same time, his message was consistent, and that was the schools. And this is an area that really is something, right? Opening the schools. We saw this week the director of the CDC say at a podium with the CDC mural behind her, big sign, CDC, her as the director saying it's safe to go back to schools. It's okay to go back to schools. And all the teachers don't necessarily have to be vaccinated. The transmission rate is next to nothing from children, and you're not going to get it from them. And we have Psaki up there, the new, the Biden White House press secretary, and this is going to be my favorite new term. She wasn't speaking in her official capacity. Actually, her words were, she was speaking in her personal capacity. Excuse me? She's the director of the CDC, at the CDC, with CDC behind her. How do you get personal capacity? And since when do the directors of agencies get to speak on national platforms only in their personal capacity? Is that going to be the new catch-all, get out of any situation type of thing? Oh, no. That's not official. That was just me speaking in my personal capacity. not on the behalf of the agency I'm director of. What is that about? That's just, I can't get over that. That's just crazy, crazy stuff coming from White House secretary. I don't know. I think that the previous secretary was doing a fantastic job. So we have the argument now is the school systems, folks, right? They need to be opened up. And this is an example where we're seeing the teachers' unions are holding hostage the country, right? They're asking for these ridiculous amounts of money, billions of dollars. And what does it take? And I'm not saying for a moment that that we don't have to do certain things. You know, sanitizing the classrooms, absolutely. So we may need a little more staff there and supplies and equipment. We may have to do some things for the distancing within the classrooms. Maybe that means putting up some of these temporary classrooms, right? You know what I'm talking about. You've seen them in places that come in, they look like a bunch of mobile homes put together, whatever, but they're fine. They're a classroom. A classroom is some desks, a teacher, a whiteboard, a chalkboard. I mean, that's really all you need to get going in a classroom. And plexiglass, I mean, does it really cost $1.1 billion? But see, the teachers' unions have thrown in these other demands that they have no business putting in. What does the teachers' union have to do with funding or defunding the police? And some of them want to get rid of their safety officer, or what they call the resource officer, which is another way of saying the police officer on the scene. This is a situation where, and it's not, you can't equate it to some other federal situations, because one of my favorite things under the Ronald Reagan administration, and most of you remember this, the air traffic controllers wanted to hold the country hostage. Remember that? Right? They wanted whatever the demands were, right? See, this is how important it was. I mean, I can't even remember what the demands were. Probably higher wages or whatever it was. And they wanted this to happen. And Ronald Reagan said, no. Well, he called their bluff, and Ronald Reagan fired all the air traffic controllers one night. That's it. You're all fired. And then he used military air traffic controllers and did an accelerated program to get people through the training. But the point is, they really never thought that he was going to do anything like that, ever. It was never even, they just thought that they had him totally over the barrel, and that it wasn't going to happen. I got to tell you that. I mean, it's also what helped bring the end to the Cold War. You might be going, what are you talking about, Joe? What do you mean the end of the Cold War? Well, what we found out later, after the fall of the wall, and we were able to debrief a lot of KGB agents, what they all seem to say is that the Russians knew that Ronald Reagan was a bit of a maverick, and they didn't think that he would ever do something like fire the air traffic controllers. But when he did do that, that made them take a second look. It made them say, wait a minute. They run on their air traffic. They run on their planes. If this guy is willing to do something like that, so drastic, we have no idea what he's capable of, and that's what brought the Russians to the table. But see, Joe Biden, not that he would do this because he doesn't have the backbone for this, because he's pandering to the teachers' unions, all unions for that matter, and it's not within the power of the president. But wouldn't it be nice if the president could say to all the teachers, "Get back to work or you're fired"? But he can't do that. But how sweet it would be if he could. 508-871-7000. Scott in Florida? Let's go to the phones. Good morning, Scott.
Good morning, Mr. Mangiacotti. How are you?
Oh, you're doing a snowbird thing.
Yeah.
All right. You down? How long? You down for the whole winter and for February or what?
No, I moved down here.
Permanently. You're out of Massachusetts.
Yeah. I'm out of Massachusetts.
Out of Massachusetts. I got it.
Yeah.
I got it. I see.
I don't miss the place at all. I paid my dues with shoveling driveways, slipping on ice, falling on my hand, almost breaking it. I don't miss it at all. Not at all.
Oh, that's what you get for walking on ice. Do you,
Yeah,
now,
well,
do you guys, did you, Russ and Jazz and go, when a snowstorm's coming in, right? I know that everybody jokes about, oh, run, get the bread and the milk. But if you know that there's a big storm coming in, don't you make sure you have plenty of iced tea, soda, whatever you need, and you start thinking Netflix, right? Showtime. What am I going to binge? Make it so you don't need to go out for a couple days. I like that. I like watching the snow, knowing I'm all set. Teddy and I are good. You know, Teddy doesn't even have to go out, right? He's pee-pee pad trained. We're good. We can hunker down for a couple days, and I think a lot of people do that. Now, other people, you have to go to work, and you have no question about that. But, you have hurricanes down in Florida. What part of Florida
did you... Yeah, you got to board up your windows.
Yeah. What part are you in? West Coast, East Coast, Center? Miami, all the way down.
Yeah,
okay. So tell me what are the temperatures going to be there today?
Today it's going to be in the 60s. I'm wearing shorts. Wearing shorts. I paid my dues. I wear shorts and sandals. No more heavy winter boots. 50 pounds a year, heavy coats, all mittens. I'm done with that. I'm done with that, man.
Hey, but there are a lot of people vacating a lot of states, including Massachusetts. New York has been having a mass exodus. Look at California. California knows they have a big problem. I mean, at this point, they're basically at the signatures to do a recall for Governor Newsom. Meanwhile, you've got people like Elon Musk, who has moved to Texas. I mean, that's where his SpaceX was running out of anyway, but he moved his personal residence. That's very signifying. Now, what I'm worried about, Scott, Jazz, Ross, the problem that we have with this, and we've seen it in a micro kind of social experiment here, is there are a lot of people leave Massachusetts and go into New Hampshire. They cross the line, right? Forget Massachusetts. I'm going to move into New Hampshire. Taxes are less. It's cheaper to live, yada, 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 all that goes with it. But what happens when you have this mass exodus from blue states, they bring their politics with them to the new state. Yeah. And this is what GOP is concerned about, that if enough people transplant from California to Texas, Texas starts to turn purple, and God forbid they turn blue. But this can happen. This can happen. And right now, I think the GOP says right there are 7 free states, right? You know, like North Dakota and Florida, a couple of them where they consider, they're Republican or GOP governors. The taxes are low. They're not in trouble. And this brings us back to the problem with the stimulus packages that we've been having, is that Nancy Pelosi wanted to jam all kinds of money in there that had nothing to do with COVID. She wanted to rescue a lot of these Democratic states who were budget shortfalls long before the pandemic was on the scene because of just poor management of the state. And that's not what the COVID money's for. And I go back, look, when it comes to this once in a century pandemic, right? The Spanish flu back in 1918, 1917, and 100 plus years later, we have another worldwide pandemic. And the question is, no politics should be played here, because what we have now is Joe Biden in the White House and the Democrats looking through the political lens at a non-political issue. And the pandemic is a non-political issue, and it needs to be addressed. So you need to put the politics on the shelf for a few minutes and deal with the crisis in front of you, which is the pandemic and the aid for COVID, and that's fighting the virus only. Meanwhile, Scott, right, they have just billions of dollars that we've put into this already, and know it, it hasn't been spent yet. And this is the thing. They're coming back to the trough for more additional money. 2 things on the stimulus, folks. One is you haven't even spent everything you've already allocated. So where is that money actually going? Whose pockets is it actually going into? And shouldn't we wait a little while to see if it even works? Because according to the latest articles I'm reading, right, we have people been surveyed, and 73% of people say any additional stimulus money received is just going into savings accounts. Just going into savings accounts. It's not going to do anything. And then we blindly send the money out. Now, on Political Thursday, I was sitting in for Jerry Williams, and I brought this up. Scott, I don't know if you had a chance to listen to it, but it's not targeted, right? Did you know that prisoners receive stimulus checks? I'm not coming down on prisoners. I'm not. They're paying their debt. No, that's not my point. My point is, why is an inmate, where the taxpayers are already paying for to house them, feed them, medical attention, they're taken care of. They have no expenses that we should be concerned with. Plus, we have governors saying that they need to be vaccinated, right, before elderly. Now they send them a stimulus check. They got the original $1,200, and then they just got the $600, and they're on target to get another $1,400 or $2,000, depending on what it washes out to. So we have
the tattoo money.
Exactly. What exactly?
They got to get all their tattoos. So.
Yeah. Why? So, but we're sending it to people who don't need it, right? You know, I have friends who are older, they're retired, they have their money, they have their, you know, whether it was, you know, Jerry Doherty set up their retirement or whatever, they're all set. They don't need it.
I never got a stimulus check. I'll take it. Don't get me wrong. Not that it would have been long gone, but the stimulus isn't going to save this country, Mr. Mangiacotti.
No.
This economy is gone. It's gone. And people that think that it's coming back, you're living in a dream. It's not going to, in a fantasy world, it's not coming back. It's been done, and I'm not being melodramatic, irreparable damage has been done to this economy. I'll give you an analogy.
Yep.
If you have a car and you stick it in a garage and you don't use it for, let's say, 2 years, you're not going to come back after 2 years, sit in that driver's seat, start the engine, and it's going to start. It's not going to start.
Nope.
The same with the economy. You're not going to crank up this economy. It's gone. It's irreparable damage. We're in a second Great Depression, and people don't realize that. But
well, you know what? To stick with your analogy, Scott, right? For that car, well, what we got to do is we've got to open businesses again. It would be the equivalent of saying, okay, you know what we got to do? We got to prime the engine with a little gas, maybe put some air in the tires, but we've got to let it do what it does, and that is run the engine and drive the car. We've got to do that. We got to stop shutting these businesses down, allow businesses to open up. Look, these business people, and I've seen interview after interview. I've talked to them. I've talked to restaurant owners because of the Out with Joe show, right? I've had this dining show for years. I know a lot of restaurateurs. I'm telling you, they have followed all of the rules, all of the instructions. They've spent their money on the plexiglass. They've rearranged the seating arrangements in their restaurants. They've come up with very comprehensive sanitation systems. They've even come up with these when you're at the table, you turn the sign out if you can approach and turn it the other way if you don't need anything, so you don't even have wait people walking up to a table and interchanging with you for no reason. They've done their job, right? They've really gone through the effort, and every time they do these things, Scott, they change the goalposts on them. They change it. They shut them down again. Let businesses open. I think we're at the point where people know what to do. Wear your mask. Don't touch each other's hands. Sanitize. Wash your hands. And at that point, it becomes the individual choice as to whether you want to go out or not. If you're living with elderly parents, you may want to limit your exposure tremendously, right? But if you're a young family and you're all relatively healthy, with those simple, right, precautions like mask wearing and not touching and sanitizing, hey, what I don't understand is during this whole time, Scott, I go to the grocery store a couple times a week. Same stockers, same cashiers, they're all there, right? How come they're able to do their job, but a teacher can't go into a classroom and stay 6 feet apart from her students and wear a mask? I don't understand it.
Going on here. There's something phony going on here. There's people say it's paranoid. No, it's not paranoid. There's some grand scheme, some grand plan. Put on your face diapers. You know what a face diaper is? Put a mask. You ever hear that term, a face diaper?
Oh yeah. Now they want us to put 2 on, right? This whole double mask.
How about 10 face diapers? You know, let me tell you something. Face diapers aren't going to save America. Opening up the economy is, and what I wanted to say before your next caller, what I want to just briefly talk about on a lighter note, Tom Brady. And as you know, he's going to the Super Bowl. He's going to win the Super Bowl, but unfortunately, he's not going to be representing the Patriots. That's the whole idea.
Right.
And sadly, and it breaks my heart, sadly, Patriots owner and Robert Kraft, who owns the Patriots, he's the guy that's responsible for losing Brady. I've heard theories that, well, Belichick, whatever, Belichick too, but the checks were signed by Robert Kraft, and money talks, and if Robert Kraft had opened up his checkbook and showed Tom Brady a lot more cash, I assure you that Tom Brady would be playing. But no, Robert Kraft is a rabid Zionist. I want to say this, and he could have had the money, but he gives millions to Israel, but he couldn't have had money to pay Tom Brady. That's why Patriots Nation, that's why you're not going to the Super Bowl. And that's why you're not going to be winning Super Bowls in the foreseeable future. And you know what? You're never going to be able to replace Tom Brady.
No, you're not ever going to be able to replace Tom Brady. And it's a shame. Thank you, Scott, for the call. It's a shame that he's not actually playing for the Patriots, but he did for many, many years. But on top of all that, too, I mean, he got a little static about, never wanting to come back to New England. He, like yourself, Scott, he was done with the snow and the sleet and the cold weather, and he said he's never coming back to that situation. So, hey, if he gets his 7th ring, and I think that's what it is, 10th Super Bowl, and this would be his 7th ring. He has 6 now, I think, right? So good for him. I mean, that would be great. The fact that he's not going to get it under Patriots, he's got a few of them under the Patriots, so we're good. Hey, before we have to take a break, I wanted to point out something pretty cool here, that Union Station, right, in Worcester, is recognized as one of the most beautiful train stations in the United States. That's pretty cool, folks, right? Among the world-class cities such as New York, Washington, Los Angeles, that's debatable in some people's opinion, Worcester has found its way into the discussion of locations with the most beautiful train stations in the United States. Now, Union Station is a very good-looking station, and you've got, and I don't know if a lot of people realize that Cotton Club in there, and I only know because I go there a lot. Usually I go there to watch the fireworks at 4th of July when we do them, because you can eat on the outside patio right there in Shrewsbury Street at the Rotary and see the fireworks. I was there for New Year's Eve this year, right? They had limited capacity and all that, but that's where I spent New Year's, was at the Union House in the train station. Worcester's train station made the list compiled by Condé Nast Traveler, which published just past Thursday. They came out with it. The publication picked 14 of the most eye-catching train stations in the country. Worcester's train station was among the handful that shared the name. The name Union Station, right? Obviously, that's a common name for a train station. As the second largest city in New England, Worcester found itself representing the region against much larger cities like New York, Philadelphia, San Diego, Los Angeles. Traveler selection Union Station in Worcester because of its twin 175-foot towers, glass ceiling, and, of course, those beautiful marble floors. All right, folks, we're coming up to 6:30. We're going to take a break, check in with Joe and a few other things, and we'll come back on the other side for the second half of the first hour of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN.
This is Sean Burke, President of the Licensed Private Detectives Association of Massachusetts, asking you to visit us at lpdam.org when you think you need a private investigator. Don't let your emotions negatively affect your future. Get your answers through a Massachusetts licensed private investigator. Get the facts without risking your credibility by unknowingly committing a criminal offense. You need a license to perform investigations in Massachusetts. What are some types of work that requires a license? Any type of surveillance, interviewing someone for a third party, background and asset checks are just a few examples. For more on this, visit us at lpdm.org and tune into AM 830 WCRN Sunday mornings at 7:30 for case files from the LPDM, or anytime at lpdmcasefiles.com.
This Find Your Forever Home for Teddy's Friends is brought to us by the Cantiani Insurance with locations at 318 Plantation Street and East Douglas Insurance at 306 Main Street, Douglas, and anytime at CantianiAgency.com. This week's candidate comes to us from the Boston Animal Rescue League. Meet Tyson. This handsome 90-pound guy is about 5 years old and he's neutered, a pit bull and terrier. And he came to the shelter when his owner passed away. This friendly goofball is looking for an active home that can provide him with plenty of exercise. He is strong and can play a little rough sometimes, so ideally he would need an experienced dog owner. And to go to a teen adult only home, he could potentially go to a home with another dog that can handle his high energy. He loves running around the yard and rolling around for his belly rubs. And if you think you are this friendly guy's forever home, please check out all the links and details at Teddy Goodpup's Facebook page. Find a forever home is brought to you by the Cantiani Insurance Group with locations at 318 Plantation Street and East Douglas Insurance at 306 Main Street, Douglas, and anytime at 508-791-2088.
It's time to go out with Joe.
Welcome to this edition of Out with Joe, brought to you by Nothing Bun Cakes in White City Plaza in Shrewsbury. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. And this week, we're going to take a look at, well, lab-grown chicken nuggets. Yes, that's right. Sounds a little Star Trek-y, right? We've all seen the episodes when the replicator just simply creates food out of thin air. Well, KFC will test chicken nuggets made with 3D bioprinting technology. They'll start this in Moscow, Russia. The chain announced has partnered with 3D bioprinting solutions to create a chicken nugget made in a lab with chicken and plant cells using bioprinting. Bioprinting, which uses 3D printing techniques to combine biological material, is used in medicine to create tissue and even organs. The 3D printed chicken nuggets will closely mimic the taste and appearance of KFC's original chicken nuggets, according to the press release anyway. KFC expects the production of 3D printed nuggets to be more environmentally friendly than the production and process of its traditional chicken nuggets. Will mark the first debut of a lab-grown chicken nugget at a global fast food restaurant chain like KFC. Raza Polakova, the CEO of KFC Russia and Commonwealth Independent State, said in the press release that crafted meat products are the next step in the development of our restaurant of the future concept. Our experiment in testing 3D bioprinting technology to create chicken products can also help address several looming global problems. We are glad to contribute to its development and are working to make it available to thousands of people in Russia and, if possible, around the world. Although it's not currently widely used in food, lab-grown meat is a heavily researched product that many investors hope will soon be on the market. Memphis Meats, a cell-based meat startup, raised $161 million in its latest funding round. And major investors include CPT Capital, a venture fund that has also backed Impossible Foods and Beyond Meat. KFC announced that it would sell Beyond Fried Chicken at over 50 California restaurants for a limited time after successful tests in Nashville, Atlanta, and Charlotte. So, folks, the future gets another step closer. Someday you might just walk into the kitchen and tell the computer to print you out a little snack. We've suspended the Music Minute for the time being, folks, but check outwithjoe.com for the latest in dining and entertainment news. Out with Joe has been brought to you by Nothing Bun Cakes in White City Plaza in Shrewsbury, on Facebook at Nothing Bun Cakes Shrewsbury. I'm Joe Mangiacotti for Out with Joe.
You're listening to Out with Joe. Out with Joe.
Have you heard of the hottest new bakery around? I know you heard about it right here. My friend Al has opened Nothing Bundt Cake in the White City Plaza in Shrewsbury. Nothing Bundt Cake is a bakery chain and is locally owned and operated by my friend Al. They have bundt cakes ranging from bite-sized to tiered, plus platters, candles, and cards. For any occasion, function, or just to have around the house or office, stop by and check them out. Everything is baked from scratch and on site. Nothing beats a sweet surprise. And until you try one of Al's bundt cakes, you haven't tried a real bundt cake. Stop by and ask for Al. Tell him Joe told you to stop by. 98 Boston Turnpike, White City Plaza near Planet Fitness, Shrewsbury. And on Facebook as well, Nothing Bundt Cake Shrewsbury.
To join the conversation, call 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Now, here's your host, Joe Mangiacotti.
All All right, folks, welcome back to the second half of the first hour of the Joe Mangiacotti Show, Saturday edition, 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. Reach into the studio for two-way talk and conversation. You can also text us on our text line, 617-297-8388, 617-297-8388. I did want to, this half hour, I'm going to focus in on student debt and the argument for forgiving it. But before I do that, let me go to the phones. Joanne in North Brookfield has been waiting patiently. So let me jump to the phones at 508-871-7000. Good morning, Joanne. Thanks for holding, and you look marvelous.
Oh, thank you, Joe. You do too. Well, just to comment on the student debt, of course they should not forgive it. But as your previous caller and you were discussing, this economy is ruined anyway. I mean, but what I wanted to talk about is the continued Nazification of our country by the Democrats. Do you know that the FBI is going around to people like you and me? If you went to the I think it's
yeah, they're actually using all of the social media, selfies, and video, and they're looking into everybody that just attended. Now, that you didn't even, and this is, and I agree with you, Joanne. This is a very scary situation because this is just feels so un-American that they're doing this. Now you've got Lou Dobbs has been canceled, right? Because he questions the Dominion voting machines. You're not allowed. This is so Orwellian. You're not allowed to question anything. Once the party in control has deemed this is the law, this is my word, period. Yeah. You can't question it. It is 100% against every fiber of in the DNA of an American. We are meant to question. In the fourth branch of government, right, the media is supposed to question. They're supposed to be the watchdogs of all of this, Joanne, but they're just an extension, another arm of the DNC.
They're just the Pravda. Yeah, they're just another media outlet for. Hello?
Yeah, man, we're listening.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. It's the Democrats.
They didn't census it that quick, Joanne, but I expect the plug to be pulled someday, though, right?
Yeah. Well, but Joe, you know, I'm getting some really disturbing things. Do you know that they just? I heard on the news, local news yesterday, today, they just arrested a young man in North Adams for going to the being present there. I guess he was one of the ones that did get in, and you know, you and I know that it was the Antifa and BLM that were masquerading as the Trump supporters that broke into the building. But they didn't arrest any of them, did they? I mean, they had that one guy only because he was in the photo when the Capitol police officer shot to death the woman. I mean, and that's been totally thrown under the rug. That whole thing, which should have been looked into.
Here's my thing on this, Joanne. For those people that scaled the wall, broke a door window, defied orders, or laid a finger on any of the police officers or agents, absolutely should be arrested, charged, prosecuted to the full extent of the law. But so should the same, those people who threw Molotov cocktails into a federal courthouse, who tried to burn court officers and security alive in a building. Officer Dorn was executed, right? Trying to protect the pawn shop of his buddy, right? We've had just this disconnect of how the law is applied when it's not being done to Nancy Pelosi's, and I know this is not supposed to be nice, but I think of from Wizard of Oz, right? And here she is, and the Capitol is her castle. And by the way, the Capitol Police answered to the Speaker of the House. And this is a woman who turned down offers for additional security ahead of that day of the 6th.
Well, because I believe it was a setup, Joe. I believe it was.
And a lot of people do. A lot of people do believe, because one of the things, and this is why Lindsey Graham said that, They did this, and I know these are tired terms, people, but look at this. The second impeachment of Donald Trump, they just pushed that thing through. No witnesses, no debate, no discussion, nothing like that. And Lindsey Graham said when they get to the Senate, if they start calling witnesses, and now the big thing, do they really expect Donald Trump to actually be a witness for himself? I mean, how asinine. He should ignore it. He's not even going to dignify it by being a witness for himself. But when they start, and Lindsey Graham said, if they start calling witnesses, that's something that they, a can they don't want to open up, right? Because they didn't do any of these things. And now we know from the FBI intelligence agencies that they had chatter about this going to happen long before the 6th, and certainly long before Donald Trump got up to speak. Plus, if you play what he said peacefully march down and fight. And if anybody is going to try to twist it, do we want to start rolling the film of what prominent Democrats have said? Every politician has used the term fight, but fight in the simple fight for your rights, fight for your voice. We have Maxine Waters telling people to get up in their face. Right, we've got Booker in these people who have threatened to shoot the president. Right, it's okay to hold his severed head up for video, and it's that kind of thing. It's ridiculous. So let's start looking at what people have. Go ahead, finish your thought.
Well, and President Trump didn't even say that. He said peacefully, and they're coming around. They even contacted people in my group, the organizer. FBI went to his house. He lives up in the Northampton area. And how about now I'm losing my train of thought. But anyway, well, that's what I wanted to say.
Okay.
AOC, who was saying she was almost murdered. She wasn't even in the building. What are we going to do with these Democrat liars?
Yeah. Well, there was who was the representative 2 doors down? She came out and said, I was there while she was doing this. First of all, we weren't even in the same building, and there was none of that. The only thing, there was a security guard, one of the Capitol Police, knocked on the door to check on her. So, I mean, she was being a little overly dramatic. Now, I'm not going to play that down. If you are a member of Congress and you're told that the Capitol has been breached and that people are a little out of control, I think you have every right to be a little concerned. But at the same time, this is the woman who's saying that members of Congress, should not be allowed to carry guns, right? Because we have members of Congress who have carried guns for years, including onto the floor. And so you're telling them, no, you can't protect yourself because we have the police. The police had a bit of a problem, didn't they?
Oh, yeah.
So
of course they were, but the whole thing was a setup. But AOC wasn't even in the building. That's the point. She was a mile away in another building.
Okay. Yeah. No, you're right. You're right.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. And,
so how many people went down? Because you didn't end up going down, right?
No, I didn't. And but you know what? I regret that now that this whole thing blew up into such a thing, because plenty of people that went down are saying they saw Antifa, BLM, young guys dressed in riot gear, did not look like us at all, saying, come on in, let's do this, encouraging them to do that. That's what I'm hearing.
Okay.
And of course, and then you heard that Tucker said that Bank of America is giving the FBI. So if you bought a muffin while you were, or a cup of coffee while you were
so let me tell our listeners what happened. So Bank of America, not at the request of any government agency, decided to go through their own customers' files and records, in looking at anybody who spent any money on their credit cards or ATM cards from the 6th on. Anybody who bought train tickets or plane tickets in that time frame. Now, why is it Bank of America thinks that's their job, and why are they violating? I mean, there should be some kind of fiduciary relationship between your bank and yourself. And if there's no court order and no agency with the authority to look into this, what the hell is the Bank of America doing that? I heard that. I didn't see it. I heard it on clips. but it's disgusts me that that's happening. And if I had Bank of America many years ago when I was as one of the accounts with my business, and the business at the time was a very large marketing and telemarketing business, and I had a call center in Montreal, and I had banks here, and I got rid of Bank of America because just the way they were. First of all, their fees were ridiculous, right? I was dealing with about $150,000 a week in sales going through that, and they were absolutely screwing me with their bank fees. It was ridiculous. But that aside, I got full lines, Joanne. So anything else before I let you go?
Oh, no, that's it, Joe. Thank you.
I appreciate the call. 508-871-7000. Let's go to Mark in Worcester, who's been waiting patiently. Good morning, Mark, and you look marvelous.
You look marvelous as well. I don't feel marvelous.
I know.
What's happening. I see what's happening to this country. That would be good. That our country is. We're not going socialist. We're going fascistic. Corporate and state sponsorship. Corporate and state-sponsored censorship, the arrest and persecution of political dissidents. Now they're coming up with a bill, H.R. 350. Have you looked into that one yet?
No, you gave me H.R. 350, and you gave me, let me see, because I had
H.R. 127.
121, yeah, 127. I got those written from my notes on Thursday. You mentioned those when I was in for Jerry Doherty.
Okay.
In the gun one, yeah. And Lou Dobbs is gone Monday. Monday, we're not going to have Lou Dobbs, by the way, right? Now they're saying that they're replacing him or letting him go because he was calling for investigating into Dominion, and that he didn't let it go. So he didn't fall in line, right?
He's being censored.
Censored right out of a job.
Just like you're going to be censored.
Yeah, well,
just like we're all going to be censored because you'll be considered hate speech because you think you're laughing.
No, I've already been accused of hate speech. I've already been things have already been done. I mean, it's crazy. What it's coming down to is this is what the official thought is, and you can't question it. And not even say that it's wrong. You just can't engage in the debate. You're not allowed to engage in the debate and say, well, explain that to me. I don't understand it. I don't totally believe it. No, this is my word.
Everything that you say on the air that goes over FCC frequencies, okay, their bandwidth is going to be censored.
Yeah.
A la the old Soviet Union. So, God forbid, if you say anything that they don't like, bingo, guess what? It's hate speech. You're a white supremacist or you're a white nationalist, and they're going to purge you from the airways. The same thing they're doing with the military. They're on the military's on a 60-day stand down, okay? To purge, this is their own words, the troops of white nationalists and supremacists.
Yeah.
What is a nationalist?
Yeah. Well, first of all, see, nationalists.
Tell me.
Let me tell you. Let me tell you, Mark, because this is actually
up in the dictionary.
Mark, this is actually an issue I have because they've turned the term nationalist into a negative. But when you put
dirty word.
It's a dirty word, but it's not. A nationalist means that you believe in your country and your country's first. But when you put the other words in front of it, right? That's when it becomes a negative thing. But nationalist, being a nationalist on its own isn't a negative thing. Being a white nationalist,
you know what the word
that's a problem.
Means?
Yeah.
You know what the word nationalist means? That means that you believe that you should, the idea of sovereign nations who have the right to self-determination, and that it flies in the face of the globalists who are now operating and running the United States of America.
Exactly.
Who happen to be who happen to be corporate fascists in the China model.
Right.
It's corporate
Which is why I'm
fascism,
saying that the
that's
word nationalist on its own is not a negative thing. It's not a bad thing. It just means
It's
you
a good
believe in the
thing.
sovereignty of your nation and you believe in the goodness of your nation. That's it. But they've added these other words in front of the word nationalist to change the meaning and to make being a nationalist a negative thing. And that's again.
That's according to the Ministry of Truth.
There we go. And they want a Ministry of Truth. That's where we're headed.
They have one now. It's coming.
It's coming.
That's why I told you about anybody out there with a computer. Go to the congressional website and look up HR 350, okay, which has to do with your free speech or your First Amendment, and look up HR 127, which has to do with your right to bear arms, which is your Second Amendment. These two bills, if they're passed, will essentially nullify your First and your Second Amendment.
There you go. All right, Mark, I got to run. Anything else before you go? I got full lines.
Yeah, I just happy I had an opportunity to get on Radio Free America, maybe for one of the last times. Have a good one, man.
Thank you, Mark. Hopefully not for one of the last times. We've been in it. We're in our 14th year doing this show. Started out as conservatively speaking. God willing, if the creek don't rise, I'll be here another 14 years as long as I can still get oxygen in my lungs. 508-871-7000. Don't forget, an hour or two coming up at 7 o'clock is Politically Speaking with State Senator Mike Moore joins us in studio to take your calls and talk about his initiatives. And I think we'll concentrate a little bit on the vaccines and the COVID-19 situation within the Commonwealth. Let me go to the phones. John in Northborough has been waiting patiently. Good morning, John. You look marvelous.
Joe. Thanks a lot. So do you.
What's
I
happening?
got some great news on the election front.
Yeah.
Last night, I put another channel that I just discovered within the last year called One America News.
Yep.
And I've been watching it faithfully along with Newsmax. Now, I was disappointed last week because Bob Sellers was on, he's got a program for 2 hours, 2 o'clock on Newsmax, and he had Mike Landell on it. Mike Landell has been studying all the data regarding these elections and the election fraud. And Mike tried to bring up the machines, Dominion machines, and Bob Sellers started to talk over him, and Mike tried to keep going, get the news out about all these studied that it really was election fraud. And Bob Sellers very stoically, sternly put him down, and said to the producers, "Get me out of here. Get this off the air. We can't. We're not going to discuss this. We've looked into the Dominion machines, and there's absolutely nothing about them that's wrong, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with this with the elections, and that's a done deal." And Mike Lindell tried to keep going. Well, guess what happened last night? I was turning the dials to the 4 stations that I listened to,
yeah,
and I put it on One America News. Oh, there's Mike Lindell. He's starting a program. He's on for 2 hours last night. They gave him 2 hours,
wow,
and he had all the experts. He had General McInerney, who's talking about cyber warfare from the communist Chinese and from several other countries. And all our voting data went overseas, and it was processed over there. And yes, the Dominion voting machines were attached to the computer, and you could get it. And all the information was going over to Germany and over to other European nations, and coming back, but to get the count, and it was all changed. Oh, by the way, the good news is you can hear it yourself. Anybody who has Verizon television, that's FiOS. You can go on One America News at 616. 616. One America News today.
So
at
wait
8
a minute.
o'clock.
One America News,
Today at
isn't
8
that a
o'clock.
TV? Is that a TV or radio?
Yeah, One America News is on TV.
Yeah.
If you have Verizon or FiOS, which is FiOS, turn to 616 on the cable network.
Yeah.
And at 8:00 today, he'll be on. Mike, they'll repeat the program with Mike Lindell. It'll be on for 2 hours.
Yeah,
at 8:00 this morning.
let me tell people.
At 5:00 tonight.
Yeah.
5:00 Saturday night. They're going to do it again. And all this weekend, they're going to be replaying. So this is the good news. The story is out. The whole thing is out there with all the experts giving their testimony.
Right.
So the good news is that we're going to hear the truth. The truth is out there already.
Right.
And yesterday he played it for the whole 9 members of the Supreme Court.
Well, let me
They're
remind
all
folks
watching it,
because John, Mike Lindell is he's the My Pillow guy, right? And he's actually been on this show before. I've had Mike on.
Okay, I hope so.
Yeah,
He's
I had
fantastic.
him on. I had him on before because he wrote a book.
I know.
And
I
we
just
talked
brought
about it.
my wife for her birthday.
Yeah.
I just brought her a My Pillow for her birthday. She said it's the best sleep she's getting.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I have My
so
Pillow
I'll
pillows
give you a free testimony.
yeah, well, I've got their sheets and too. They are good stuff. He makes a great product.
So what do you think about that now? Instead of all this stuff being like they're taking Lou Dobbs off the air.
Yeah, they are.
Just for bringing it up. Now men like Mendel's out there for 2 hours doing it. He's finally broke through and he's got all the facts. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, the thing about this is everybody. I believe that everybody has the right to have their thoughts, their arguments, and if he's got the platform, that's fine. But if you don't like what he's saying, you can change the channel.
Well, who's talking about not liking what he's saying?
No, I'm just saying in general.
Terrific.
Yeah.
The only ones that don't like it are the deep state, the shadow government, Nancy Pelosi, the Democrats, the globalists, the rhinos. They don't like it. But brother, it's not. By the way, it's not 74.8 million voters that voted for Trump. Those are the ones that were counted. But counting all the ones that were thrown away and all the ones that were flipped, it's over 80 million. It's over 80 million. They're actual. They got.
But we can only go with.
You got to watch this show because it's got all the data, and they show it right out there from cyberspace.
Got it.
How it was put together.
Okay, John, I want to thank you for the call. That's great information. I know Newsmax has gone up tremendous in their viewership. Fox has lost a lot of people watching it. This American One American News. Honestly, I haven't seen it. I don't have Vios or Verizon, so I've never seen One America. But I've heard a lot of people tend to love it. And Newsmax, I know Howie Carr. He takes, I think, the 4 o'clock hour. He's here on this station from 3 to 7 Monday through Friday, and I think the 4 o'clock hour they actually carry on Newsmax. So there are alternative programs out there, alternative networks where you can see this whatever it is that is more your taste, and that's good. Look, I think that the answer to these questions and the answer to is there fraud, isn't there fraud, it's more discussion, not less. And that's my point in all of this, is that we need more discussion, not censorship, not shutting people down. It's to fight disinformation with the truth. It's to fight what you don't like to hear with what you do like to hear. It's the answer to this stuff, gentlemen and ladies, is more discussion, not less discussion. But that's going to wrap up this hour, the Joe Mangiacotti Show. Coming up now in the 7 o'clock hour, we'll be joined by Senator Mike Moore in studio for Politically Speaking, and we'll go over some of his talking points, some of his issues he wants to talk about, the vaccine rollout, and, of course, we'll find out what his legislative priorities are here on AM 830 WCRN.
WACE Chicopee and WCRN Worcester.
7 o'clock.
Hey folks, Joe Mangiacotti from the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Reminding you, talk radio is the immune system to the partisan bias, political rhetoric attacking us on a daily basis. Get inoculated. The Joe Mangiacotti Show is your vaccine. Join me weekend mornings, 6 to 8.
Golden Group Roofing is a community brand. From our master lead roofers and industry partners to our clients, every single person represents the Golden Group standard. We strive every day to make your home's needs a priority because Golden Group invests in you and your communities. With unbeatable craftsmanship, customer satisfaction, reasonable pricing, Golden Group Roofing stands above the rest. Having been awarded GAF Master Lead Contractor, Certainty Select Shingle Master, and GAF Energy Certified Solar, Golden Group Roofing is 100% worthy of your investment. Experience the Golden Group difference, where hands protect what matters most. Visit us at goldengrouproofing.com or call us at 508-873-1884. 508-873-1884.
I want to tell you what Cantiani Insurance has been able to do for me and Teddy. We stopped in to see Paul Sr. and the great staff at 318 Plantation Street. They've been handling my car and business insurance for years. Teddy was making his way around the office, and they let me know. They now offer pet insurance. For a fraction of what one visit to the vet was for Teddy, they could cover him for a whole year. I know you treat your furry family members like any other family member, and as well as I do Teddy. The professional staff at Cantiani has been providing courteous service for over 40 years, with integrity and personalized service, making sure that your insurance actually protects you and your family. With 2 locations, the 318 Plantation Street in Worcester and East Douglas Insurance Agency, located at 306 Main Street in Douglas. For home, auto, business insurance, and now pet insurance, click CantianiAgency.com or call 508-791-2088. 508-791-2088.
This Find Your Forever Home for Teddy's Friends is brought to us by the Cantiani Insurance with locations at 318 Plantation Street and East Douglas Insurance at 306 Main Street, Douglas, and anytime at CantianiAgency.com. This week's candidate comes to us from the Boston Animal Rescue League. Meet Tyson. This handsome 90-pound guy is about 5 years old and he's neutered, a pit bull and terrier. And he came to the shelter when his owner passed away. This friendly goofball is looking for an active home that can provide him with plenty of exercise. He is strong and can play a little rough sometimes, so ideally he would need an experienced dog owner. And to go to a teen adult only home, he could potentially go to a home with another dog that can handle his high energy. He loves running around the yard and rolling around for his belly rubs. And if you think you are this friendly guy's forever home, please check out all the links and details at Teddy Goodpup's Facebook page. Find a Forever Home is brought to you by the Cantiani Insurance Group with locations at 318 Plantation Street and East Douglas Insurance at 306 Main Street, Douglas, and anytime at 508-791-2088.
So are you tired of being tired? Well, then it's time to get the tea. Hey, it's Lisa here to tell you about this all-natural, all-organic tea I've been drinking that has had great results for over 20 years. It's called Life Change Tea, and it's specially formulated to help detoxify and cleanse your kidneys, liver, colon, and blood all at once. The colon is one of the most ignored organs in the human body. The faster that waste is eliminated from the body, the less time that waste sits in our intestines, spreading toxins to our bloodstream. This tea helps cleanse chemicals caused by outside intruders from our entire digestive system. And get this, weight loss can be a side effect. And with continued use of the tea, you can experience clearer, healthier, younger-looking skin, increased energy, and a happier outlook on life. So if you're tired of being tired, get the Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. And like me, you'll be glad you did.
The spirit of Massachusetts is the spirit of America, the spirit of what's old and what's new. The spirit of Massachusetts is the spirit of America, the spirit of the red, white, and blue. The spirit of Massachusetts is the spirit of America, the spirit of what's old and what's new. The spirit of Massachusetts is the spirit of America, the spirit of the red, white, and blue. The spirit of Massachusetts is the spirit of America, the spirit of what's old and what's new. The spirit of Massachusetts is the spirit of America, the spirit of the red, white, and blue.
Wow, if that doesn't pump you up a little bit, man, I don't know what does. Welcome to Politically Speaking on AM 830 WCRN and AM 730 WACE. Senator Mike Moore in studio for Politically Speaking. Good morning, Senator. How are you? That's a great picture. What is this you're showing me?
That's for the American Heart Association.
Get your mic on. Hold on.
The American Heart Association.
Give me a second. You got the mic? Go ahead.
Okay, is it working?
Yep.
There we go. It's for the American Heart Association. They have a Go Red Day. It's to stress the importance of heart and cardiovascular issues relative to women today. So they have it once a year. And the post I was showing you, I went to look for all my red clothes yesterday.
Yeah, and you couldn't find anything?
Couldn't find anything.
So you found that old Lester show. Well, you know, the thing is, right, so women, right, have come up in the workforce, and that's fantastic. But the thing is, what they've discovered is as women start to get equal in pay and in the workforce and numbers, they get the same health conditions that men have, right? Yeah. Heart attack, heart issues have increased for women. And I think you got to be simple-minded not to see that the correlation between women working and getting all that high pressure and having heart problems, so they're going to get the same issues that men have had for decades, unfortunately. Yeah. So
it's a nice. It was nice. It was kind
of. So you found a red shirt, and
then I had I went in my closet. I had a tie, a red tie.
Oh, there you go. Okay, everybody has a red tie. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was just kind of funny. I'm running around the room yesterday morning saying, "God, I have nothing red."
Well, don't you like? I have a couple things, green things, right, that only get used a couple times, right? The 17th, give or take, right? For what I found when I moved to Worcester decades ago, Worcester doesn't do St. Patrick's on St. Patrick's. It's like a week long, right? It seems like we celebrate it for a week. I mean, there's the Boston Parade, the Worcester Parade, and then between the week, those 2 Sundays, everybody's celebrating. So you got to have a few green things.
Well, part of the reason for this way, by Worcester having it different from St. Patty's Day, or actually more, it's different from when Boston has it. It's not a competition between the two.
Yeah, we always pick the other Sunday.
Yeah,
depending where it falls, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I found that St. Patrick's Day is kind of a week-long celebration in Worcester. At least that seems to me, right? There's a going on. So I have a few. Of course, I have a green fedora. Obviously, I have to have a fedora, and I have a red one for Christmas, a green one for St. Patrick's Day, and then a couple different green shirts to make it. So that's it. I don't think I wear green any other time. Oh, I have a dark green pullover shirt. That's it. Oh. That's it. But I have a lot of red. I like red and black.
Yeah, I don't. And has nothing to do with liking it or not. When
you didn't have it, but it was good, and so this is a yearly thing on a date that they do this.
Yes, every year they do this,
and it's just women heart. We're going to just fix your mic a little bit and turn it so that you have the right angle. There we go. All right.
Oh, just dropped on us.
Just dropped. There you go.
There we go. Okay.
Jazz is hurting the senator. So we've got. Let's move to some of the things that we wanted to talk about. So politically speaking, this Facebook page, you want to check that out. We post the hour of this show on there, and then hopefully we post some stuff that you're doing from your office during the week. But the vaccine rollout, people have a lot of questions about this. And Worcester, I know I just posted the other day, because I got the news release about Worcester State University being a super location.
Well, it's going to be a super location.
That's the plan.
Right. The plan is to make that one of these super vaccination sites, which is a positive. There's some other initiatives that the Baker administration is going to be rolling out now. They're going to try to be addressing some of the homebound issues for seniors, where they're hoping to try to tie into the Meals on Wheels program. I don't know if they haven't really finalized it yet, but I will say I do want to thank the Lieutenant Governor and the administration for one aspect of this is when a lot of the problems with the rollout was occurring that we were being hit with by our constituents. The Lieutenant Governor did call me after the Central Mass and the Metro West delegations got together, and we sent a very comprehensive letter in to them with the different issues that we had with the rollout and that our constituents were having. So, the communication could have been a lot better prior to this.
Yeah.
But I think now we're these problems with the system or the rollout have been occurring. They are at least trying to address them. And there were a lot of problems with the rollout.
Well, I think, and hopefully one of the good things that comes from this is we learn, and I say we collectively, government agencies and we the people, learn how to handle any kind of future situation that requires the same type of mobilization, right? It's been over 100 years since we've had a worldwide pandemic, so we might have been a little rusty here on how to handle this
we
stuff.
were a little rusty, but some of the rollout problems that we had weren't issues that couldn't have been foreseen.
Yeah.
One of them, and I know I listened to the hour before this, so this is not. I'm not trying to be Democrat Republican, but
don't poke the bear.
one problem that they did have, and this is a legitimate issue. The previous administration in Washington did not supply the states with enough vaccine. So when the Massachusetts administration, is coming forward trying to establish the sites, they are very limited in what they have for vaccines available. So legitimately, they have a valid justification for some of the limited access for our constituents to get the vaccine. But
how did that work, though? Did the government say, okay, every state gets X number of vaccines or doses, or did they go state by state? Obviously, New York needs a different number.
It was state by state. There was
based on their state.
Yeah,
size.
and I don't even want to get into there were some obviously there were some on both sides saying that, well, Massachusetts, because we had a governor that wasn't supportive of we got less, but I
hope that's not what was happening.
Well, and I don't know, so I don't really want to get into that. But there was the amount of vaccines available were limited, but there were a lot of problems with the rollout. I mean, if you look at I had one constituent reply to my office that state had 8 months, 9 months to prepare for this, and it's true, we did. And actually, this is not trying to divert any blame, but the administration rolled out a plan. So they're the ones that rolled out a plan, and we've been getting a lot of feedback from our constituents on what the problems
The Baker
are.
administration or the Trump administration?
On the state level, the Baker. So legislators having, I understand the public sometimes gets confused over who has the authority. So we're getting hit with your plan's horrible and all these problems. We had nothing to do with the rollout of it, but we are the front line of the conduit to go into the administration and say, okay, look, let's try to fix these. So what?
Right, you represent the people.
Right.
And you go to the Baker administration and say, this is what we need.
This is what we're hearing. These are the problems.
Yeah.
So and this may be just due to the age of some of the people that work in the administration that set this up. The website. The website was set up where people who have limited computer skills. Well, first you had the issue where people who don't have any computer skills, and then you have people who don't have access to computers. I had cases where 80-year-old mothers and aunts and uncles were being taken to trying to get a vaccination site, but they had to go on a website where you had to click 7 different screens.
See, let's talk about that for a second, because I think that, and you probably nailed it, Senator, with the generation. A certain generation have taken to computers, duck to water. They don't even think anything about it, and they don't connect that people over a certain age, they're not going to have the same skills or even the same mindset, and therefore you've got to keep that in mind. I mean, in some of these voicemail trees you get to, you still hear them say, press, or just stay on the line, and they have it default. Because I went to a friend's mother's house the other day, and there was still a rotary phone on the kitchen wall. I mean, I haven't seen that since I was a kid, and there was a rotary phone in our kitchen with the 20-foot cord, right? So that's the only way you could have a private conversation, was to take it into the bathroom, close the door, put the cord under the door. That was the closest privacy you could get.
Well, and it's funny what you're saying about the prompts you have to go on those calls.
Yeah.
Half the time, I just go right to 0.
Yeah, you just don't default it.
Because you hit a prompt, then it sends you to another prompt.
Yeah.
So there were some legitimate issues there. The administration has come back. They've revamped the website. So hopefully it's a little easier now. There's an actual complaint process now that they've sent forms to the to our offices, the senators and reps offices. Now that if we have an issue, we can utilize this form to try to get some streamlined the access. The other issue was that if you looked at the map for the rollout of the sites, you had Eastern Mass and one in Western Mass, and Central Mass was clearly void of any a lot of services. Yeah, so that was an issue we had here in Central Mass.
You'd think that you'd start with the Central Mass, right, and then add, because in Massachusetts we really need the Central Worcester area, then the Far Western, then you need a Cape and Islands, and then you need a North Shore too.
Well, like I had said to the administration when I'd spoken to the Lieutenant Governor, or even actually we had a call with the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Mary Lou Sutter's office, that Worcester's the second largest city of New England, not just Massachusetts, of New England. How do you create a system where you've got all these sites on the east, and then you jump over Central Mass?
Yeah.
So that's hopefully being rectified with this mass vaccination site. So hopefully that can get up and running. And they're also now, because they've gotten more vaccines, the amount of vaccines that's going to be coming out to Central Mass into the state are actually going to increase.
All right, I got to go to the phones in a second, but one of the things on here, according to them, you said that there are around 35,000 appointments available per week. Is that in the state, or is that going to be for one of these zones? 35,000 appointments.
Actually, I'll get a clarification for you on that.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
508-871.
I took it being the state, but
okay. 508-871-7000. Join the conversation. Let's go to the phones. Mark in Worcester. Here is Senator Mike Moore on line for you, Mark. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning. How are you?
You weren't on the fine. You weren't on the air but 3 minutes, and you already were bringing up the faux pas of the previous administration. I have to assume you're speaking about the Trump administration and their
Mark, if you notice, I clarified each time saying I don't want to get into certain issues. I don't want to. I heard the last hour. I don't want to delve into that because it's just going to be a battle on the misinformation that was put out in the last hour to now. This is not, that administration's over. We have a new administration.
You just brought it up. You brought it up.
Because it was because there's been an issue. It's proven this is not misinformation. The amount of vaccines that were available were limited, and that affected what the state could put out.
Right.
And I'm not trying to diss the former administration. I'm just bringing out a fact of what the problems were with the rollout and how we're trying to move forward.
Was the Trump administration, were they responsible for the fiasco that took place at the Holyoke Soldiers Home or the Chelsea Soldiers Home? Was he responsible for that?
No, that had to go with the investigation. They showed that there was some internal correspondence that went to, I think it's to the Secretary of Veteran Affairs, and that's all being investigated. And as far as I know, there was no tie-in to the Trump administration to that.
Yeah, because the Soldiers Home is run by the state of Massachusetts, not the Trump administration.
Okay.
Is that a fact?
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So who are you going to blame? The Trump administration?
Why would you, Mark? Why would you bring that up when that's not even part of the discussion? And there's been no blame.
It is part of the discussion because you brought it up. The Trump administration. 3 minutes you weren't and you already had brought it up.
We were talking about the rollout of the vaccines and what the issue was with the vaccine, and this is part of the problem with the whole issue.
You know the reason why you even have a vaccine is because of the Trump administration and his fast track. That's the only reason that you have it to begin with.
Well, I'm not going to disagree. I'm not going to disagree with you. I'm not going to disagree that they fast tracked it. But I do think any administration that would have been in there, I think, would have done a fast tracking of it. And I can bring whoa. Let me listen. Let me. How do you know that they wouldn't? But I think anyone. You had the Obama administration when you had the Ebola, they fast tracked vaccines. They fast tracked the vaccine. So I think any administration would have done that. And you've got the Operation Warp Speed. Pfizer wasn't even part of that, and they They did, and they came forward with one of these, with one of the vaccines. So you can't pick and choose what you want to talk about. So we are talking about the issue of the rollout of the vaccine and some of the initial problems that the state has faced.
Okay.
I made one reference to the previous administration, and that's all I'm going to make regarding that.
Okay, Mark, thank you for the call. So, Senator, you said that you urged the command center to work with the local senior centers to help them get their residents and vaccines and to help them open their own vaccine sites. Now, that to me, that makes sense that, we have all these senior centers, right, in every community.
Yep.
Right? So they're tied into the elderly population. People, the elderly population goes there on a regular basis. At least they communicate with them.
And they're handicap accessible.
Yeah.
So now again, and I hate to bring this up again now, because there was a limited amount of vaccines available. I had one site within my district that they were looking at setting up a site at one of the high schools in March.
Mm-hmm.
But they were very clear when I had talked to them about it. But we don't know if we can because we don't know if we're going to have the vaccines available.
Right.
So
right.
There's
what does the pipeline look like? I mean, because now what do we have? Like 5 vaccines, right? There's Moderna and there's Pfizer, and aren't there 5 altogether? Or is it 4?
But
say again. AstraZeneca, Johnson and Johnson.
Well, I don't know if Johnson Johnson's available yet. Aren't they pending approval?
Yeah. And Johnson Johnson's going to be a single shot. So, and actually, I don't know if it's tomorrow or whatever. I've got a great show coming up on the whole vaccine situation, and this guy breaks down the 2 shots, the frozen, because you've got to deal with the one that has to be negative something degrees, right?
That's
Pfizer. So that's so important because it breaks down, and the logistic problem with that is once you open it, right, and use it, you've got to use it like in so many hours, which is why we've seen a couple times that people just got them randomly, because I think one of the stories I covered was a whole bunch of EMTs or whatever were scheduled, but something came up and they didn't show. So CBS was like, who's you're here?
Yep.
Who wants the vaccine? We're not, otherwise we throw it out.
Right.
Because once you take it out of the freezer, you've got to use it. You can't freeze it again. That's it. So there's those logistics that people have to deal with.
Yeah, and the other problem too because of the limited amount of vaccines open, we've gone to phase 2 as far as February 1st, but it's phase 1 for the essential workers or the first responders. Yeah. I know communities where all the first responders have not even been received it, and we're going to phase 2. And the reason that they didn't receive it because there was a lack of availability for the vaccines.
Now, when you say things like that, though, can you also explain to us what that means? Because people listening, you say phase 2, but they may not understand what phase 2 means. Well, and who counts?
Phase 2 would be the people 75 and older.
All right, so the elderly,
the elderly,
real elderly,
right? The phase 1, and look, there was some legitimate arguments being made for who should have been in phase 1. It was basically police, fire, emergency type personnel. We've sent letters and we advocated for support of including funeral directors of personnel.
Right.
Because you can't. They had to handle that.
Yep.
You also had in phase 1. You had developmental disability organizations or workers.
Right.
Because they're taking care of people in that.
Right. And they can't. They have to. They have to. Right.
So the other I always talk about, which I think people forget about, and were the people at the grocery stores.
Oh yeah.
Now these were.
I was saying that earlier.
And that's what prompted me to think about it again this morning, because you brought it up. That's true. During the whole pandemic, these workers were there. And everyone just kind of takes it for granted that you can go to the grocery store. Yeah. But the problem is, not everyone couldn't be included in phase 1 because we didn't have the vaccines available.
I mean, every time you mention this, right, there's another tens of thousands of people fall into those categories.
Exactly. And there were legitimate arguments for including them in phase 1.
Absolutely. I think you can make a good argument for almost anybody to get included if you want to stretch it here, but I mean, think of the people. I mean, the banks just did the drive-through window for a while, right? Yeah. I couldn't physically go in the bank for a while. That's how they handled it. 508-871-7000.
And one quick I know there's a call pending, but just to get this out, legislators did not did not get any preference, because we've had some people, oh, how come you're getting access to it? We have not gotten
Right.
access before anyone else. If you fall within that demographic
Right.
or that group,
Right.
you get
They
access
may,
to it.
a legislator may have gotten one because they were of a certain age,
Correct.
or had a precondition, whatever it is, but not because they were a legislator.
Right. There's no that we were not pushed to the front of the line.
All right, you're listening to Politically Speaking with Senator Mike Moore. First Saturday of every month from 7 to 8 o'clock, we open the lines for your calls and comments as the senator shares with us his legislative priorities and what's happening up on Beacon Hill. Let's go to the phones. Bruce in Northbridge has been waiting patiently. Good morning, Bruce. You're on with Senator Moore.
It's been a long year. Senator Moore, I'm still waiting to go back to you and Senator Fatman to sit down and see if I can get some money back from the state for a waiver for my health insurance. As you recall, back in, I think, February or March last year, we talked about this.
Bruce, help me. You were cut off. What's your last name?
Casey.
Okay. Did my office, or Fat Man's office, never respond to you?
No, I stopped because you guys are too busy doing.
Oh, okay. All right.
You guys are too busy providing PPE to your constituents, doing a great job. Every single one of the Central Mass leaders in the state level were doing this.
Thank you.
Commend you for doing that. Okay? The federal level, all they were doing was blaming people. They weren't providing PPE. They weren't finding sources for PPE. Okay?
Okay.
And as far as leaders taking the vaccine, our senator from Cambridge took the vaccine with TV cameras. Okay? So again, I
Bruce,
commend,
was that Senator Warren?
yes,
Okay.
I commend all you folks in Central Mass, all the leaders, for not doing the same. Okay? It's disgusting. Okay? What's happening?
Did she take it because of her age?
I'm not sure.
I don't care. I don't care. I don't care what she took it for.
Bruce, I will say this. This is not just defense. I'm not trying.
She took it out before I have a father-in-law that's in a nursing home.
Okay.
Okay? She took it before he got it.
Okay.
And I'm sure she got it before a lot of other people in nursing homes.
Bruce, I know because we're going to be limited at time at some point. I will address that, but please email my office.
Oh, I will. That's not
Okay.
a problem.
All right. So email us so we can address that other issue. But I will say. But I will say this. But I will say this, Bruce. Some of the, and I'm going to say more prominent people in the world, because you even had, and I'm not picking on them because it's the other administration. Even Vice President Pence received it on TV. A lot. There's been an initiative. We have a lot of people who don't believe in vaccines. So some of the more prominent people have been given vaccines, and this. I think I took that as a way to try to incentivize people to say, "Look, it's okay."
But they were the
it's safe.
same people. But they were the same people that were downplaying it and making comments. Why the hell are they doing it?
Okay. Yep.
All right. Well, Bruce, although unfortunately we're running against the clock, I can't control that at all. I mean, you're welcome to call back and speak with him or reach out to his office.
Because we have professional athletes also who have been getting it, and obviously they're in a lot better health than
Right.
us.
But they also came out and said they should get it because of just who they are. And we'll get into the Charles Barkley thing about. We'll talk about that if you want. But we have to break. It's 7:30. It's time for Handling Change. We're with Senator Mike Moore for Politically Speaking, and we'll continue with the second half of the second hour just after this break here on AM 830 WCRN.
The spirit of Massachusetts is the spirit of America. The spirit of what's old and what's new. The spirit of Massachusetts is the spirit of America. The spirit of the red, white, and blue.
Good morning and welcome to Handling Change from
Mangiacotti and Greta Bahami of Golden Brook Roofing joins us this week. Maintaining your home, weighing price versus experience and professionalism, all while understanding how to enter into contracts. And what is really important when working with contractors can be challenging. Greta can help you handle those challenges. Good morning, Greta.
Good morning, Joe.
Good to have you back in the studio here for Handling Change. And last time we were together, you actually talked to us about roofing versus roofing systems, and that was pretty interesting, especially the accessory part. I always hear about venting and how important venting is. I'm guessing it is. It sounds important, but why don't you explain to us what you mean by venting and why is it so important?
Yes, I mean, venting an attic and venting a home is so important, not only to the structure, not only to the health of the property when it comes to mold and just overall health of the plywood and the decking of your home, but it's also very important to the longevity of the roofing system. Attic ventilation is actually important in both hot and cold climates. In cold climate, a warm air that's trapped in the attic, especially during the winter, can cause snow to melt quickly and then refreeze as ice. This is what we call ice dams. And ice dams in the roof can be destructive, not only to the shingles, but also to the gutters and just the overall health of the beams and the structure. The hot air that condenses in the attic can contribute to mold and mildew growth. This can lead to failure of the roofing system and premature failure. So we always want to encourage properly installed attic ventilation system as well as good attic insulation to make sure that the overall life expectancy of the roof is reached. A well-designed and properly installed attic ventilation system with good attic insulation will provide excellent temperature and moisture control to protect your home from unnecessary damage while maintaining a comfortable internal temperature year-round. We need to inspect your property and we need to create and design a plan for air intake and air outtake so the air can properly flow in and out. Usually air intake will be at the soffit cavities of your home, so the bottoms of the roof line. That's where we're going to look to create an inflow of air where we want air to flow up. And then we're going to design an exhaust for the air, usually the ridge of your home, or if you don't have possibility of a ridge, we're going to create some sort of exhaust either by solar powered vents or just roof louver vents. But the objective is to circulate the air coming in from the bottoms of the home, the bottoms of the roof line, and then coming through the attic up and exhausting at the highest peak of the attic, which normally is called the ridge of the home.
You know something, when I was a kid and we'd be driving around in these, tough New England winters that we have, and we'd see this house, right? All these houses had a bunch of snow on the roof, and there'd be one with, a clear roof. You could see the shingles, and my dad used to say, oh, wow, they have really lousy insulation. And then it dawned on me what he meant by that is all the heat's going out of it and melting the snow. Is that accurate? Is that what was going on?
Yes, that is absolutely accurate. A good home in the winter and a good home that has great insulation and great ventilation is going to be a home that's going to maintain that snow on the roof consistently throughout the winter. You're not going to see a lot of melting and refreezing, and that's what you're looking for. You're looking for a home that can withstand the amount of snow that it has and keep it consistent throughout the whole property. That to us is a success in both ventilation and insulation. With a proper ventilation, whatever cold's coming in through the roof line is being, again, exhausted right out through the ridge vent.
Well, I'll tell you what it is good for. They make fantastic New England winter pictures, right, for the Christmas card with that roof. Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right.
Even if you have poor ventilation, you still get one hell of a picture when those beautiful ice create almost like a winter wonderland on your property. But
Right.
hopefully that's not the case with your home.
Let me ask you that while we're on it. Icicles, what's that an indication of? Should icicles be hanging there? Is that normal melting and dripping, or should you not have any icicles?
You're always going to have some sort of icicles because it would be impossible to avoid completely ice dams in New England, although we strive for that. We're always going to have some. But if you are seeing a situation where you have, 5-10 feet icicles coming down from your gutter line into your property, that's usually an indication that the structure is suffering poorly, either from insulation or ventilation. And in those events, it is recommended that you seek out both professionals in insulation companies and ventilation companies so they can provide you with some feedback, and then you can make the necessary plan that best fits your property's needs.
All right, fantastic. Thanks for stopping by, Greta.
Thanks for having me. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too, and thank you for joining us for Handling Change from the Cantiana Insurance Studios. Join us each week at 7:30 as we give you the tools to handle the changes in your life. Visit us at handlingchange.info and follow us at Talking Change for You. You can find Golden Brook Roofing online at goldenbrookroofing.com. Give Greta a call anytime at 508-873-1884. For Greta, I'm Joe Mangiacotti.
The spirit of Massachusetts is the spirit of America, the spirit of what's old and what's new. The spirit of Massachusetts is the spirit of America, the spirit of the red, white, and blue. The spirit of Massachusetts is the spirit of America, the spirit of what's old and what's new. The spirit of Massachusetts is the spirit of America, the spirit of the red, white, and blue. The spirit of Massachusetts is the spirit of America, the spirit of what's old and what's new.
Seth MacFarlane doing that as Peter Griffin actually singing it. He's a good singer. He has a great voice. I mean, he does well. That's what he does for a living. He's got talk about Hollywood money. Seth MacFarlane. He's local too, which is why that's why the Griffins live in Rhode Island.
Oh, okay.
And if you watch that show, right, Jazz is saying, they will make reference to real businesses like Jack's Joke Shop in Attleboro, or the car dealership, the Patron Brothers. Yeah. And there's even an episode where they talk about the Twinkie factory in Natick, because Hostess used to be in Natick. And remember that there's the nuclear war, and the only thing that survives are the Twinkies. And so they trek to Natick, Massachusetts, but they can't find it. So they end up at the Carvel store in Framingham. So he's a Rhode Island boy. So
Joe, we had that one text.
Yeah. So, all right. So this is Politically Speaking with Senator Mike Moore, and he's in on the first Saturday of every month to take your calls, answer your questions, 508-871-7000 if you want to reach in and join us. We also have our text line open, which is 617-297-8388. And you can also email us at Text Joe on the Radio. That just happens to be what it is, and it will appear. So 315 did text in and says, are Ebola vax still available, Mr. Moore? Is it too late to get one? And what agency, state or federal, should one contact? Thank you. That's that text.
Well, I guess this is very unusual for an elected official or politician to say, but I don't know. But what I would suggest you to do is, I don't know where you live, I would suggest you to either email or call your state representative or your state senator, and that's information they could probably get to you. I would think they can refer to you to the right entity that will give you that information. I would think it would, in some limited aspect, because I know when you go to travel to different countries, there's always a vaccine list that you should get. So I'm just basing on that. I would think it would probably be available in some limited basis. But just call your rep or your senator, and they should be able to direct you to the right.
Good. All right. Very good. Again, 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. And let's go to the phones. Joanne in North Brookfield. Been waiting patiently. Good morning, Joanne. You're in Politically Speaking with Senator Mike Moore.
Yes, I just wanted to correct Senator Moore's observation that the Ebola vaccine was invented under Obama's tenure. No, the Ebola vaccine wasn't invented until 2019. So Obama had as much to do with it as the moon landing.
So you're saying the Trump administration invented the Ebola vaccine?
Did I say that? Oh, I don't know who invented it. I do know who invented it. Wait a minute. All I'm saying is that it was invented in 2019. It was developed by the Public Health Agency of Canada, with the development subsequently taken over by Merck. So I didn't say anything about Trump doing it, but Trump did invent the vaccine for the COVID. And of course,
how did Joanne? How
was throwing it down.
Well, whoa, Joanne. This is the misinformation era is over. The Trump did not invent the vaccine. Pfizer invented the vaccine. Merck invented the vaccine. Johnson & Johnson invented the vaccine. AstraZeneca invented the vaccine.
See,
you can't have it both ways, Joanne.
He was in the laboratory inventing it. How you like to misconstrue your words? I mean, of course, but he made it possible for them to do that. And then all the Democrats said they wouldn't take it, and then as soon as Biden's on board, now you've got a real problem. How do we keep a lockdown?
Wait a minute. Hold it. Listen.
Just interject something here. Is that we're getting
I'm not going to be addressing misinformation in this bit. This is the problem that we've had. You've had the newly elected Congresswoman Marjorie Greene come out and say publicly on the floor that some of this misinformation or her beliefs were based on all this misinformation that QAnon and all these other groups had put out that made her believe some of the crazy things that she believed. I don't want to discuss misinformation. I want to move forward. I want to try to forget the past and the problems that occurred. It's time for us to heal and move forward and try to focus on what we have.
Some of this comes down to semantics because we're using the term invented. Nobody invented. Trump didn't invent it. He just happened to be the president. Well, these pharmacies, these scientists, they're the ones who invented it. They came up to it. They did it on the urging of the administration to get this stuff done. But on the same token, people are saying, I'm not going to take the vaccine if Trump's president. Trump isn't in a lab coat in the basement of the White House mixing this stuff up.
And I don't think I said that Obama invented it. I said I believe I was talking about the rollout of it.
Right.
The Ebola vaccine, what I said is they expedited the manufacturing of it or the research of it.
Okay. All right, folks, 508-871-7000. Join the conversation if you'd like to jump on. Senator Mike Moore is in. He is the senator from the Worcester-Millbury area. I know you've talked about the towns that you cover, but you're up there on Beacon Hill. You work with the other 39 senators. You know what's going on. You know the votes that are out there. Let's move into some of the legislative priorities for yourself that you have going on, because I know You've been coming on for like a year here, and you've talked about some of the great work you've done with the Sexual Assault Counseling Task Force and the work you've done there. Also, you're looking to cybersecurity in the Commonwealth. And I think that not just the federal government, but I think all state legislatures and governors have to be concerned with cybersecurity. Yeah. It seems to be more and more issues are coming up, right? We hear the breaches that happen all the time, the identity theft that takes place. It's just a constant. Right now, these VPNs, they used to be there all the time, but now there's a push to use these, and these are the virtual private networks, so that if you're, you log on at home, I do it now. I have it installed at home. It pops up, and every time I'm working at home, I have that thing going on. Now, not for the radio business, but my other business. As a private investigator, we're very well monitored as to our records, how we were even allowed to keep our records under lock and key. These data companies we work with, Senator, actually come physically out to inspect our office. So our cyber systems have to also be at a level that can't be hacked.
Correct.
So this is something you deal with in the 21st century.
Yeah, I will say this. Last legislative session, two of my priorities were Nikki's Law, which we end up getting passed.
And thank you for that.
And then at the very end was the legislation I filed 6 years ago. We were finally able to get it through, and that's the sexual assaults on college campuses legislation. And that's actually where one of my focuses, not the cybersecurity, but the Sexual Assault Counseling Task Force came from. So that was an offshoot of that. But the cybersecurity, we filed this last session, and since then, prior to that, I was chair of a commission to study cybersecurity, and we issued a report. And the report recommended creating a joint committee in the House and the Senate just to focus on cybersecurity type issues that would be coming before the state. And then we also put together these suggestions. And this is one of the suggestions, the legislation that we're looking at. It's a public-private partnership. I would refer to it that way, because we took the concept of the Public Utilities Board, and we put on there, at the governor's appointment, cybersecurity chief experts from each industry. Okay. So you could have a cybersecurity, because one thing that we found out during the commission we had, every policy area had different cybersecurity protections or methods of securing data. So what we wanted to do is, we didn't want this to be strictly government. We wanted the input of private industry. Mm-hmm. So we would have this board, and they would be made up of people from certain sectors, whether it's financial, whether it's healthcare, whether it's whatever, and they would review and make sure that there was a basic standard that any company that was storing data would have to adhere to. So that's the concept behind this. I can get more specific into this, but I know we're very limited on time, and we have a text question.
Yeah, we do have a text from 978. Let's see, I think it's a long one. First, does the senator oppose any rise in the gas tax in Massachusetts? And will he publicly oppose it, or is he in favor of breaking the will of the Massachusetts people? And on a serious note, I apologize. I came in late with the Senate on a call for the resignation of that person, called for breaking the will of the people of Massachusetts. It was a two-part text, so I don't know if that made
I have no idea who the resignation is.
Yeah, I don't know what we're talking about there. So the question being, where are you on the gas tax? Because wasn't there just a study done on that? I thought I heard or read an article. I think Holly Robichaud wrote something about this. The alcohol tax and the gas tax.
Oh, I know what Holly wrote that, but I can tell you, I've always traditionally been opposed to the gas tax increase.
Yeah.
Because I always felt that was there's a diminishing return on that.
Yeah.
Because if you look at and we're only going to be seeing this more and more of this right now with electronic vehicles and other renewable types, from the hybrid vehicles to all electric.
Right.
So the revenue coming in is not going to meet.
We're working very hard to use less gas, so obviously the revenue will go down.
Right, which means we have less money to utilize on repairing the roads and the bridges and this. So what we're seeing is the gas tax is going higher and higher to try to maintain those costs.
Yeah.
But it's putting it's putting a more of a hardship on our working class and our people who really can't afford it.
Okay, I agree 100%. I've always said that the gas tax hurts the working class, middle income family the most.
Right.
If you're in the very lower income, you're probably living in dense areas and cities, and you use public transportation. Maybe not even working. And if you are higher income, $50 extra in gas isn't going to throw your budget off. But if you are that working person from paycheck to paycheck, and all of a sudden it's $25, $30 extra a week, another, say, $1.20 or $30 a month, now that hurts a family. You're talking the cable bill has to go, or there goes the family vacation. There goes the ability to repair the car when a big expense. All these things, it really hurts income.
But look, the problem we face is any sort of tax increase, no one supports.
Yeah.
But the reality is, if we're going to fund roads and we're going to fund bridges and we're going to fund schools, the gas tax is supposed to go back to our roads and bridges and highways. Transportation system. But the problem is, what are we going to use to replace the loss of revenue? If we want good roads, if we want a good transportation system, how are we going to fund those systems if we're not going to keep increasing the gas tax and to cover the costs? So we need to find an alternative revenue source.
Well, I think also, because there's already a gas tax, right? We already have money dedicated to this. And I think the question that always comes up, Senator, is people say, well, why is Massachusetts so high on cost per mile?
We had that question.
Yeah.
And I think hopefully he ended up getting that report we sent.
Okay.
Look, a lot of it is we do have a high cost of labor.
Yep.
We have a high cost of the type of work that has to be done. It's not like down south where we don't have a lot of granite in the soil, and our terrain up here our geography up here is much different. And we also have a lot of when we're doing a lot of the repairs, we have a lot of old infrastructure.
Yeah.
So we have to we have to go back. We have a lot of infrastructure that we have to repair and bring up to standards that are going to adhere to what we need for the future.
Right. The numbers on that, so the national average is 162,000 and change per mile, whereas Massachusetts is 675,312 per mile. So I think that's where people say that seems like a huge disparity. So we got another text in coming from actually the same texter. So Massachusetts, I hit the button here. Okay. Massachusetts Undersecretary for Climate Change, David Ismay. Do you know who David Ismay is?
No.
All right. David Ismay captured on video saying the state meaning Massachusetts needs to break consumers. So I'm not, David Ismay doesn't ring a bell to me, but
I have, I have not heard that. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just saying that's the first I heard of that.
All right. Massachusetts Undersecretary for Climate Change, David Ismay. This is posted. So this is coming from Mass Live 15 hours ago. So maybe that's why you and I aren't familiar with all this. Governor Charlie Baker called out an official in his Environment Secretariat on Friday, so last night, describing comments that Undersecretary of Climate Change David Ismay made last month about pushing consumers to reduce carbon emissions as something that, quote, no one who works in our administration should ever say, unquote. Fiscal Alliance published a video clip Thursday of Ismay addressing the Vermont Climate Council back on January 25th in a virtual meeting.
Okay.
And this is the thing, right, Senator? All these virtual Zoom meetings, they're all recorded now,
Yes.
right? So people, it's a lot easier to call people on their record. But he says 60% of our emissions come from residential heating and passenger vehicles. He went on to say, according to the video, quote, let me say that again, 60% of our emissions that need to be reduced come from you, the person, inaudible, on the street, the senior on mixed income, on fixed income. There is no bad guy left, at least in Massachusetts, to point to the finger at, turn the screws on, and break their will so they stop emitting. That's you. We have to break your will. Yikes. From an official. So that's the first you're hearing it.
Yes.
First I even know about it. Literally, this is breaking. I mean, it happened not days. This was came out from Governor Baker last night.
And actually, does it say? I'm sorry. Did he resign? Or they're saying he was?
It doesn't. It's a Massachusetts commentator has made caption video saying it doesn't say that. No, I guess Baker is coming out and he called out an official. He called them out. In other words, hey, not good. Not good. Bad man. Very, very bad man.
Yep.
But it doesn't, according to, I'm reading the Mass Live article on this, doesn't say that he's been fired or suspended.
Okay.
But Mass Fiscal Alliance sharply criticized his remarks. And when Baker was asked during a Friday press conference about the topic, he said that Lieutenant Governor Karen Polito watched the video in the morning and spoke to Energy and Environmental Affairs Secretary Kathleen Thorarides.
Yeah.
All right, Thorarides about it. Baker also pointed to this video, Baker pointed to his veto last month of a wide-ranging climate change response bill the legislature sent him and concerns the rise, the costs that it would create.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. So the administration's taking action. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
I had not seen that.
Yeah, I didn't see that either.
And just so you know, the climate change bill that did go to the administration was passed by the legislature. It was not passed. The governor did not sign the legislation. Now, part of the normal process of that is the legislation gets signed by us. It goes to him. He has 10 days to veto it or sign it. Because it was passed at the last night of session, he did not have the option to, he also has the option to send it back with amendments, and then we would vote on it again.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was at the last night of the session, his only option was either sign it or pass it. He could not make any minor adjustments to it if he wanted to make any or suggest any amendments.
So what did he do?
So he vetoed it.
Okay.
We passed it again, I think a week ago, 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to go to him, and we are expecting him to send it back with his recommendations for changes. So that's where we are right now.
Okay. Another text from a 508 area code, and actually, I was actually going to bring this up because we were getting the conversation about taxes, gas taxes, and of course we have tolls. A texter says, Senator, we have tolls on the east to west roads. How about the tolls on north to south? Now, this is
Fully supportive.
Before, right?
Since I've been elected, I have advocated for toll equity. I don't think it's fair that
because we pay, right?
Yes.
Because if we want to go to, you and I pay all the time because we got to go
pay
in
for
and out of
tolls.
Boston.
We have to. You pay for tolls. You pay for parking. You pay for gas. And this is another issue with the gas tax that Central Massachusetts or even Springfield, we have these added burdens. And I do think that there should be there should be better toll equity. I don't think it's fair. I think there should be some tolls on 93 going north and south. You have people coming in from New Hampshire and Rhode Island that are utilizing our roadways and our systems and our transportation systems, and they're not paying for any of it. So I do agree with you. I think there's there should be some toll equity. We actually passed several years ago. I think it was my first or second term, with the current help of the current Senate President, where we sent legislation to the governor's office. This was under Patrick, that gave him the authority to seek permission from the federal government to put tolls on the north-south highways. It never materialized.
Now, Senator, right, with the gantries and the technology that we have now with the Easy Pass transponders in most of our cars, but you don't even need to do that now because the technology is so advanced. They read our plates. So if you don't have it, you can get on the Pike. It doesn't matter whether you have that little box.
But
or
the
not.
problem we have with north-south is, especially north, New Hampshire, there's some federal regulation where if one state already has it, we've got it, when they come over to Massachusetts, because it's a federal interstate, we need to get permission from the federal government to implement it in our roadway.
But that wouldn't be a big thing, would it? I mean,
well, well, apparently it is, because back when Patrick was Governor Patrick was in office, the legislature did send him a transportation bill, and in that we gave him the authorization to seek that federal authorization, and to this day it has never come.
Who was it? There was a state legislator down like the Abington area or something who wanted to actually put gantries everywhere and basically charge us
I haven't heard
for
that.
every mile. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, I haven't heard that. See, the problem, and this is with the whole carbon tax, the TNC that they're looking at.
That's
again,
huge,
it's such a huge thing, and I don't know how you would implement that. I mean, is that something that you're going to look at? Okay, every year when you get your inspection sticker, they're going to look at how many miles you went, and then you get billed, which that would put a big financial burden on our taxpayers. How much you're going to get billed, and then is it going to be quarterly, monthly, whatever, and what's that rate going to be? So we've got to, and this goes back to the gas tax, we've got to find an alternative revenue source that's going to maintain our roadways and our infrastructure. The question is, how are we going to do it, and what is that going to be?
Right.
And again, going back to the 90 north-south, all on board with you there.
Yeah. Yeah, so just a quick check, Western Mass drivers, so there was some talk, 4 years ago, almost 5 years ago, where they were saying turnpike tolls under all electronic, they're very well received, so there was discussion apparently at one time of saying, hey, why not throw gantries up everywhere, and this was under Governor Patrick's administration.
Yes.
All right.
So while you're looking at the Texas, so another legislative priority this year, I have the Cybersecurity Commission legislation. I also have a Sexual Assault Counseling Task Force. Again, when I was preparing, when we were doing all our research for the sexual assault bill on college campuses, this came from the Worcester Rape Crisis Center. One is Pathways, Inc. One thing that came about is that a rape crisis counselor, right now there's, and I actually went through the training, there's no set mandatory curriculum. So this would create a task force to make sure that person who's a sexual assault counselor receives training and a certification, because when you have people calling up these rape crisis lines, they're in a state of trauma and crisis, need help. So this would ensure that.
I hate the fact that I have to cut it on such a serious issue
and this
here.
whole thing make cuts in other areas. Look, we don't have enough. There wouldn't be enough cuts to make to cover the cost of our transportation.
Absolutely. Folks, this is Politically Speaking. This will be broadcast, or this will be posted on the Politically Speaking Facebook page, this hour of show. That's what we do with that. Meanwhile, they can reach out to your office directly via?
617-722-1485. Voicemail, we'll get back to you. And then the email is michael.moore@masenate.gov.
All right, folks, that will wrap it up for Politically Speaking for this month. I'm Joe Mangiacotti, along with Senator Mike Moore. I'll be back tomorrow morning, 6 a.m., right here on AM 830 WCRN.